Hello? Hello? Oh, is that you, Saunders? Can I speak to Miss Cynthia? All right, I'll hold on. Hello? Cynthia, darling, it's Daphne! Yes. Are you alone? Listen. I'm here nowhere. Yes, I did. No, he isn't awake yet. No, there's nobody about at all. No, in the spare room. I've only just got up. I'm not dressed or anything. I can't go on about it now. Somebody might come in, but, well, so if anybody rings up from home, will you swear to say that I stayed with you? Darling, you promised! Well, in that case, I'm in the bath or something. Yes, as soon as I'm dressed in about an hour, I should think. Of course. I can't wait to tell you. All right. Oh, good morning. What time is Mr. Essendine going to be called?
He will ring.
What time does he usually ring?
That depends on what time he went to bed.
Oh, I'm afraid we were rather late last night. You see, we were at a party and Mr. Essendine very kindly said he'd drive me home and, well, then I found I'd forgotten my latchkey and I knew I shouldn't be able to make any of the servants here because they all sleep at the top of the house, so Mr. Essendine said I could stay the night here and, well, and so I did.
If you were very late, you'll probably sleep until the afternoon.
Oh, dear! Couldn't you call him?
No, we can never call him.
Well, do you think I could have some coffee or orange juice or something?
I will see.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
Have you any idea what time Mr. Essendine will wake up?
It might be any time. He didn't leave no note.
Couldn't you call him? It's nearly 11 o'clock.
Listen, the whole place goes up in smoke if we wake him by accident, let alone call him.
Well, do you think I could have some breakfast?
What would you fancy?
Coffee, please, and some orange juice and toast.
Oh, righty-o.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Mr. Essendine's secretary. Is there anything I can do for you?
Oh, no, well, I'm afraid it's rather awkward. You see, Mr. Essendine drove me home last night from a party, and I idiotically forgot my latchkey, and so he very sweetly said that I could stay here, in the spare room.
I hope you were warm enough.
Oh, yes, quite, thank you.
It's liable to be a bit nippy in the spare room.
Oh, I kept the heater on.
Oh, very sensible.
And now, well, I was wondering if somebody could tell Mr. Essendine that I'm, well, here.
I expect he'll remember when he wakes up.
Have you any idea when that will be?
I'm afraid not. If he didn't leave any special time to be called, he might sleep on indefinitely.
Oh, I don't want to go away without saying goodbye and thanking him.
If I were you, I should have some breakfast and dress, and if he isn't awake by then, you can leave a message for him. Have you asked for any breakfast?
Yes, I think the man's bringing it.
Have you known Mr. Essendine long?
Well, no, not exactly. I mean, of course, I've known him for ages. I think he's wonderful, but no, we actually only met for the first time last night at Maureen Janet's party.
I see.
I think he's even more charming off the stage than on, don't you?
I can never quite make up my mind.
Have you been with him for a long while?
Just on 17 years.
Oh, how wonderful! Oh, I expect you know him better than anybody.
Less intimately than some. Better than most.
Is he happy, do you think? I mean, really happy?
I don't believe I've ever asked him.
He has a sad look in his eyes every now and then.
Oh, You noticed that, did you?
We talked for hours last night, and, well, he told me all about his early struggles.
Did he by chance mention that life was passing him by?
I think he did say something like that.
Oh dear.
Why?
No, I only wondered.
Oh, you've no idea how I envy you working for him, but then, well, I expect that everybody does. It must be absolute heaven.
It's certainly not dull.
Oh, I hope you don't think it's awful of me staying here for the night. I mean, it does look rather bad, doesn't it?
Well, really, Miss...
Stillington. Daphne Stillington.
Miss Stillington. It's hardly my business, is it?
No, I suppose not, but, well, I wouldn't like you to think.
17 years is a long time, Miss Stillington. I gave up that sort of thinking in the spring of 1922.
Oh, I see.
Will you have your breakfast in here, miss, or in the bedroom?
Here, please.
I think it would really be more comfortable for you in the bedroom. The studio becomes rather active around about 11. People call, you know. The telephone rings. I'll let you know the minute he wakes up.
Oh, thank you so much.
Fred, is there any soap in that bathroom?
Yeah, but it taps a bit funny. You have to go turning it on till Kingdom Come.
Did you tell her?
She'll find out for herself.
Were you here last night?
No, she's news to me.
If he hasn't rung by 12, we'd better wake him.
Well, you know what happened last time.
It can't be helped. He's got to lunch out anyway.
Well, if the balloon goes up, don't blame me.
I suppose it's of no interest to any of you that I have been awakened from deep, deep sleep by everybody screaming like banshees. What's going on?
I've been talking to Miss Stillington.
Who the hell is Miss Stillington?
She's in the spare room.
I didn't ask where she was, I asked who she was.
Oh, we might look her up in the telephone book.
She forgot her latchkey, if you know what I mean.
Go away, Fred, and get me some coffee.
Right-yo.
And don't say rightio.
Very good, sir.
You met her at a party and brought her home here and told her all about your early struggles, and she stayed the night.
Oh, she's a darling. I remember now. I'm mad about her. What did you say her name was?
Stillington. Daphne Stillington.
Yeah, I knew it was Daphne, but I hadn't the faintest idea it was Stillington. How did she look to you?
Oh, restive.
Oh, poor sweet. I hope you were nice to her. Has anybody given her anything to eat?
Fred took her some coffee and orange juice.
Well, what's she doing now?
I don't know. Drinking it, I suppose.
It's awful, isn't it? What are we to do?
She wants to say goodbye to you and to thank you.
Whatever for?
That, Gary dear, I am in no position to say.
Why didn't you tell her to dress quietly like a mouse and go home? You know perfectly well it's agony here in the morning with everybody banging about.
You might have thought of that before you asked her to stay the night.
She had to stay the night. She'd lost her
Oh,
latchkey.
the sooner we turn that spare room into a library, the better.
Oh, she's probably sobbing her heart out.
Why don't you go and see?
Lend me a comb and I will.
Here.
Oh, good God. I look 98.
Never mind.
In 2 years from now, I shall be bald as a coot, and then you'll be sorry.
Oh, on the contrary, I shall be delighted. There will be fewer eager young debutantes ready to lose their latchkeys for you when you've got a toupee perched on the top of your head, and life will be a great deal simpler.
I shall never wear a toupee, Monica. However bald I get. Perhaps on the stage I might have a little front piece, but in life, never. I intend to grow old with distinction.
Well, I'm sure that will be a great relief to us all.
Oh, here's your sordid little comb.
Now, do go and do a nice goodbye scene, there's a dear, and get rid of her as quickly as possible. We've got to do the morning mail, and Morris might appear at any minute, and we can't have her littering up the place and getting in everybody's way.
I haven't done my exercises yet.
Well, you can do those after she's gone.
I can't go into the spare room in my pajamas. It's like an ice box.
The heater's on. It's been on all night.
Very extravagant.
Gary! I thought I'd heard your voice.
My dear.
If you want me, I shall be in the office, Gary.
Thank you, Monica.
And you won't forget, will you, that at 11:45 Mr. Roderick is coming to discuss your special broadcast on the 17th.
No, Monica.
And that at 12 sharp, Morris is coming to discuss what understudies you're going to take to Africa.
No, Monica.
And that at 12:30 you have given an appointment to Mr. Roland Mole.
I shall remember.
Oh, I'm so glad. Goodbye, Miss Stillington. I do hope we shall meet again.
Goodbye. Gary! Oh, Gary!
Darling.
I'm ridiculously happy.
I'm so glad, darling.
Are you?
Happy?
Yes.
Oh, there's something awfully sad about happiness, isn't there?
Oh, what a funny thing to say.
It wasn't meant to be funny.
I've been in love with you for, well, such a long time.
Don't say that.
Why? What's the matter?
Don't love me too much, Daphne. Promise me you won't. You'll only be unhappy. No good can come of loving anyone like me. I'm not worthy of it, really, I'm not.
Oh, you're more worthy of it than anybody in the whole world.
Foolish child.
I am not a child. I'm 24.
24. If only I were younger. If only you were older.
Oh, what does age matter when people love each other?
Oh, I wonder how tragically often that has been said.
It's true.
Look at me, Daphne. Look at me kindly, clearly and honestly. Look at the lines on my face, my thinning hair. Look at my eyes.
You're not so very old.
I didn't say I was so very old, Daphne. I merely said look at me. As a matter of fact, I'm only just 40.
What's 40?
Too old for 24.
You mean you don't love me?
No, I don't mean any such thing.
Do you love me? Say it. Do you?
Of course I do.
Say it.
I love you, Daphne.
Oh, darling.
But this is goodbye.
Goodbye.
It must be. It's inevitable. Not for my sake, my dear, but for yours. Last night, suddenly, a spark was struck. The flame burned brightly. That was happiness. Something to be remembered always.
You're so different this morning. You don't love me. You didn't mean any of the things that you said last night.
Oh, youth never understands. That's what's so absolutely awful about youth. It never understands.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Listen to me, my dearest. You're not in love with me, the real me. You're in love with an illusion. The illusion I gave you last night when you saw me on the stage. Last night, I ran the risk of breaking that dear young illusion forever. But I didn't. Oh, thank God I didn't. I see it. It's still there. I can see it in your eyes. But never again. Never. That's all I can dare to hope for now. That's why I'm so lonely sometimes. So desperately lonely. But I have learned one bitter lesson in my life. And that lesson is to be able to say goodbye.
But Gary! No.
Let me go on.
But I really don't see why.
We meet not as we parted. We feel more than all may see. My bosom is heavy-hearted, and thine full of doubt for me. One moment has bound thee free. That morning has gone forever, like lightning that flashed and died, like a snowflake upon the river, like a sunbeam upon the tide, which the dark shadows hide.
But Gary!
Be quiet for a minute, darling. That moment time was singled as the first of life and pain. The cup of joy was mingled, delusion too sweet though vain. Too sweet. There now, that was Shelley. Don't you think it's beautiful?
Yes, But
There was nothing Shelley didn't know about love, not a thing. All the sadness, all the joy, all the unbearable pain, it's all,
oh, I don't see why love should be so miserable.
That's because you're so young, my sweet. Young and eager and greedy for life.
You said last night that I was the one that you had been searching for always, and now that you'd found me, that you would never let me go.
And that was perfectly true. I never shall let you go. You will be here in my heart forever.
Gary!
Don't cry. Please, please, please don't cry. I can't bear it.
How can you say that I'm only in love with an illusion and not the real you at all?
Because it's true.
No, it isn't. It isn't, Gary. It was the real you last night. You weren't on stage. You weren't acting.
I'm always acting. Watching myself go by, that's what's so horrible. I see myself all the time, eating, drinking, loving, suffering. Sometimes I think I'm going to be mad.
I could help you if only you'd let me.
Oh, if only you could. But it's too late.
No, it isn't. I swear it isn't. You see? I'll prove it to you.
Listen, my dear. It isn't that I don't love you. I do. I knew at the first moment that I took you in my arms last night. But my life is not my own. I belong to my work. Look, in 2 weeks' time, I am going away to Africa with a repertory of 6 plays. Do you understand what that means? The work, the drudgery, the nerve strain. When I come back, if I come back, I shall look at you again, and I shall know, in the first glance, whether you have waited for me or not. Please come here now and kiss me once, just once, and then go. Au revoir, my sweet. Not goodbye, just au revoir.
Does you want your coffee here? Do you want it upstairs?
Oh, anywhere, Fred. Put it anywhere.
I'd have brought it in before, but I heard all the weeping and wailing going on, and I thought I'd better wait.
Put the tray down, Fred, and go away.
Right-yo then, Gary.
Oh, my God. There's no peace anywhere.
I've switched it in here because we've got to go through the mail and I can't keep darting in and out of the office all the time. Hello, Mr. Essendine's secretary speaking. No, I'm afraid he's not available at the moment. Well, he's very busy just now. I think perhaps it would be better if you wrote. No, I'm sorry, that's quite impossible. Very well. Not at all. Goodbye.
Who was that?
A Mr. Bramble.
Never heard of him.
He said you promised to look at his invention.
What sort of invention?
I haven't the faintest idea.
Fred said I was to go and speak to the young lady.
Very well, Miss Erickson.
What shall I say to her?
I really don't know.
Well, I have been to the grocer's and...
That's as good an opening gambit as any.
Just see that she has everything she wants, Miss Erickson, and turn on the bath for her.
Alas, that I cannot do. The tap makes no water.
Do the best you can.
I will try.
There's nothing much this morning. I'll go through them quickly.
This coffee tastes of curry powder.
Never mind.
I wish I had a French chef instead of a Scandinavian spiritualist.
You could never get rid of Miss Erickson. She worships you.
Everybody worships me. It's nauseating.
There's hell to pay if they don't.
What's that blue letter?
Sylvia Laurie. She says she must see you before you go away.
Well, she can't.
And there's another one from Lady Worrell. Lunch on Friday or dinner on Tuesday.
Ooh, neither.
Here's one from a young man you forced to go to the Slade School. He's very unhappy.
Oh, I didn't force him to go to the Slade. He asked me for my advice and I gave it to him.
Well, he says he's hedged in by obsolete conventions, that his inspiration's withered, and that it's all your fault.
Oh, he's a bloody fool. I knew it from the first moment I clapped eyes on him.
In that case, it would have been wiser not to have let him think that you minded so passionately about his career.
If people don't want my advice, Monica, why the hell do they come and badger me? Put it on Mount Pleasant.
We'll have to go through Mount Pleasant before you go. It's overflowing. Here's a postcard I can't make head or tail of.
It's from Brazil.
I know. It says so on the stamp.
I've done what you said, and it's nearly finished. I can't quite read the signature. It looks like Prickett.
Can you remember anyone called Pickett that you sent to Brazil to finish something?
Oh, tear it up. People should write legibly or not at all.
Oh, not at all would be lovely. Hello, Mr. Essendine's secretary speaking. Oh, Tony. All right, hold on. He's just here. It's Tony. He wants to know what you thought of that play last night.
Tony! Oh, that was a pretty thing, wasn't it? What persuaded Laura to do it? Oh, yes, but it wasn't even a good part. All that turgid nonsense. It would have been better to understand if they'd put a synopsis on the programme. Medieval My Foot, they just look like bananas. No, I haven't read any of them. No, it's insufferable. If they think that ramping and roaring's good acting, well, yes, I'm thankful I'm going to Africa. Oh, about 6 o'clock. Liz will probably be here. I think she's coming back today. Yes. Okay, all right.
Fred, is Miss Stillington nearly dressed?
Oh yeah, but she is crying, which makes her slow. And the bath was on the blink.
You'd better go upstairs, Gary.
Oh, you better come up. We can do the rest of the letters while I'm in the bath.
Now, there's only two more. An invitation from Gertrude Lovett. She's giving a coming-out dance for that pimply-looking daughter of hers, and...
Ooh, polite refusal.
And rather a complicated letter from some Boy Scouts.
Ooh, good God.
Apparently, you're a patron of their dramatic club, which I must say I'd completely forgotten, and they're giving a performance of Laughter in Heaven, and want you to send them a message.
Well, all right. Send them one.
What shall I say?
Monica, dear, don't tell me that you've arrived at the age of 43 and are unable to send a message.
Hello? Oh, Henry. Yes, he's in, but he's just gone to have his bath. Oh, today? I thought you weren't going until the end of the week. Yes, of course. He's not lunching until past. All right, I'll tell him.
Good morning, Monica dear.
Liz, we thought you weren't coming back until tonight.
I came over on the ferry, loaded with gifts. Here's one for you.
Oh, how lovely.
It's a bottle of perfume. Very expensive.
Thanks ever so much, Liz, you're a darling.
What's God up to?
In the bath.
I've brought him a dressing gown.
Oh, how thoughtful. He's only got 18.
Oh, don't be acid, Monica. You know he loves peacocking about in something new. It's nice and thin and highly suitable for Africa. Well, Miss Erickson looked more peculiar than ever this morning. Is her spiritualism getting worse?
She got in touch with a dead friend at a séance on Sunday night, and all he said was no, 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 and Christmas Day. It upset her very much. That damn thing never stops. Hello? Oh, Morris? No, he's in the bath. Liz is here if you want to talk to her. Yes, she's just arrived. Here, Liz, it's Morris.
Good morning, dear. No, on the ferry. Oh, yes, I saw the play twice. We shall have to alter the end for England, but I talked to the playwright and he didn't seem to mind what happened as long as Gary played it. No, I'm lunching with poor Violet, but I'll come to the office directly afterwards if you like. All right.
This looks wonderful, Liz. I shan't open it until I get home.
Hello, Fred. How's everything?
Oh, bit of a lash up, miss, as usual.
Do you think I could have a cup of coffee? I feel a sinking.
Oh, all righty-o, miss.
It is very resolute of Fred to go on calling me Miss, isn't it?
I think he has a sort of idea that when you gave up being Gary's wife, you automatically reverted to maidenhood.
That is a very pretty thought.
Oh, I'm so awfully sorry about the bath, Miss Stillington.
Didn't matter a bit.
This is Mrs. Essingdine, Miss Stillington.
Oh,
How do you do?
Mrs. Essingdine. Do you mean? Are you Gary's wife?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he was divorced.
We never quite got round to it.
Oh, I see.
Oh, but please don't look agitated. I upped and left him years ago.
Miss Stillington lost her latchkey last night, and so she slept in the spare room.
Oh, you poor dear. You must be absolutely congealed.
Do you think I could get a taxi?
I'll ring up for one.
No, don't do that. My car's downstairs. It can take you wherever you want to go.
It's most awfully kind of you.
Not at all. The chauffeur's got bright red hair, and his name's Frobisher. You can't miss him.
Thank you very much indeed. You're sure it's not inconvenient?
Oh, not in the least. Just tell him to come straight back here after he's dropped you.
Oh, yes, of course I will. Thank you again. Goodbye.
I'll see you out.
Oh, please don't trouble.
It's no trouble at all.
Would you like anything with your coffee, miss?
No, thank you, Fred. Just the coffee.
Well, I'll tell his nibs you're here. I don't think he knows.
Thank you, Fred. Has that been going on long, or is it new?
Oh, quite new. I found it wandering about in Gary's pyjamas.
Poor little thing. How awful for her to be faced with me like that. You ought to have pretended I was someone else.
No, serves her right. She ought to be ashamed of herself.
She seemed to be what is known as a lady. It's all very odd, isn't it?
That type's particularly idiotic, and the woods are full of them. They go shambling about London without hats and making asses of themselves.
It's very discouraging.
I don't mind, if only they'd leave Gary alone. It makes the morning so complicated.
He's not really nearly as flamboyant as he pretends to be. He's just incapable of saying no or goodbye.
Oh, he says goodbye often enough, but he always manages to give the impression that he doesn't really mean it.
I'll have a go at him. It's high time he relaxed.
If you think a big scene's necessary, we can get Morris and Henry too, and have a real rouser the night before he sails.
Oh, Morris is awfully hysterical these days, and Henry's not nearly so reliable since he married Joanna.
Do you like her, Joanna?
Oh, she's a lovely creature, but tricky. Yes, I think I like her all right.
I don't.
Oh, you never would, darling. She's not your cup of tea at all.
Who isn't?
Joanna?
Oh, she's not bad. A bit predatory, perhaps, but then as far as I can see, everybody's predatory in one way or another.
I shall give it up for Lent.
Good morning, darling. Mwah. Where's my present?
On the piano?
Oh, it's not another glass horse, is it?
No, it's a dressing gown for Africa.
Oh, how wonderful. Just what I wanted. Oh, it's absolutely charming. Thank you, darling. I'm mad about it. It really is perfect taste. Say something about it, Monica.
I'm speechless.
Right, go away then, Monica. I must talk to Gary before Morris gets here. It's important.
You'd better hurry. Mr. Moore will be here in a minute.
Who's he?
You know perfectly well. He's the young man who wrote that mad play, half in verse, and caught you on the telephone, and you were so busy being attractive and unspoiled by your great success that you promised him an appointment.
Ah, I can't see him. You ought to protect me from things like that, Monica.
Oh, you must see him. He's coming all the way from Uckfield. And it serves you right for snatching the telephone when I wasn't looking.
I've noticed a great change in you lately, Monica. I don't know whether it's because you've started cramming yourself with potatoes or what it is, but you're getting nastier with every day that passes. Go away.
I'm going. I shall be in the office if you want me.
Oh, of course you'll be in the office, spinning awful plots and intrigues against me.
I will if I can think of any.
Now then, tell me all about your trip and everything. How was the play?
I saw the play.
Good?
Yes, very. We shall have to change it a bit, but the playwright is quite willing to let us do what we like. But I don't want to go on about it now until I've mulled it over a little more. I'm seeing Morris after lunch.
I've told him I can't open until November. I must have a holiday after Africa, so there's lots of time.
Now, I want to talk to you about something else.
I don't like that tone at all. What's on your mind?
Don't you think it's time you started to relax?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Who was that poor little creature I saw here this morning, in evening dress?
She'd lost her latchkey.
Yes, they often do.
Now listen to me, Liz.
You're over 40, you know.
Only just.
And in my humble opinion, all this casual scampering about is rather undignified.
Scampering indeed. You have a genius for putting things unpleasantly.
Oh, don't misunderstand me. I'm not taking a moral view. I gave that up as hopeless years ago.
It's all very fine for you to come roaring back from Paris, where you've been up to God knows what, and start to bully me.
I'm not bullying you.
Yes, you are. You're sitting smug as be damned on an awful little cloud and blowing down on me.
Don't bluster.
Who went away and left me a prey to everybody? Answer me that.
I did, thank God.
Well then.
Would you have liked me to have stayed?
Certainly not. You drove me mad.
Well, stop shilly-shallying about then and pay attention.
This, to date, is the most irritating morning of my life.
You have reached a moment in your life when a little restraint would be becoming. You're no longer a debonair, irresponsible juvenile. You are an eminent man, advancing, with every sign of reluctance, into middle age.
May God forgive you.
Look, never mind about that. Listen, we all know about your irresistible fascination. We've watched it going on monotonously for 20 years.
I met you for the first time exactly 11 years ago next August, and you were wearing a very silly hat.
Oh, will you be serious? Your behaviour naturally affects all of us. Morris, Henry, Monica and me. You're responsible for us and we're responsible for you. You never lose an opportunity of lecturing us and wagging your finger in our faces when we happen to do something you don't approve of.
And am I right or am I not? Answer me that.
Oh, you're fine when dealing with other people's problems, but when it comes to your own, you're not so hot.
Of all the base ingratitude.
Oh, I think the time has come for you to look very carefully at yourself and see how much you really need all this buccaneering. I personally don't believe it's nearly as necessary to you as you think it is. Think what fun it would be to be unattractive for a minute or two. Why, you might take to it like a duck to water. And anyhow, it would be a wonderful change.
Dear Liz, you really are very sweet.
Oh dear, I might just as well have been talking Chinese.
Oh, don't be cross, Liz, dear. I do see what you mean, honestly, I do.
Well, that's rather sudden, isn't it? After your belligerence of a few moments ago?
Well, surely I may be allowed a little change of mood.
You're acting again.
You've said some very cruel things to me. I'm upset.
If only you were.
Seriously, though, don't you think you've been a little too hard on me? I admit I'm a trifle feckless every now and then, but I really don't do much harm to anybody.
You do harm to yourself and to the few, the very few, who really mind about you.
Oh. I suppose you've discussed all this with Monica and Morris and Henry.
I haven't yet, but I will unless I see some signs of improvement.
Oh, blackmail, hey?
Oh, you know how you hate it when we all make a concerted pounce.
The thing that astonishes me in life is people's arrogance. It's fantastic. Look at you all, gossiping in corners, whispering behind your little fans, telling me what to do and what not to do. It's downright sauce, that's what it is. What happens if I relax my loving hold on any of you for a minute? Disaster. I happen to go to New York to play a 3-month season. Henry immediately gets pneumonia, goes to Biarritz to recover, meets Joanna and marries her. I go away for a brief holiday at Saint-Tropez for a month in 1937, and when I come back, what do I find? You and Morris, between you, have bought the dullest Hungarian play ever written and put it into rehearsal with Phoebe Lucas in the leading part. Phoebe Lucas, playing a glamorous courtesan with about as much sex appeal as a haddock. How long did it run? 1 week. And that was only because the press said it was lascivious.
Isn't all this a little beside the point?
Certainly not. 20 years ago, Henry put all his money into that lousy little play, The Lost Cavalier. And who played it for 18 months to capacity with extra matinees? I did. And who started his whole career as a producer in that play? Morris.
I wish you'd stop asking questions and answering them yourself. It's making me giddy.
Where would you all be without me? Where would Monica be now if I hadn't snatched her away from that sinister old aunt of hers and given her a job?
With the sinister old aunt.
And you, one of the most depressing, melancholy actresses of the English stage. Where would you be if I hadn't forced you to give up acting and start writing?
Acting.
Good God, I even had to marry you to do it.
Yes, and a fine gesture that turned out to be.
Well, I was in love with you longer than anyone else. You can't grumble.
I never grumbled. I believe in going through any experience, however shattering.
Oh, you adored me and you know it.
I still do, dear. You're so chivalrous, rubbing it in how dependent we all are on you for every breath we take.
I didn't say that.
You're just as dependent on us anyway now. We stopped you being extravagant and buying houses every 5 minutes. We stopped you, in the nick of time, from playing Peer Gynt.
I still maintain I should have been a magnificent Peer Gynt.
Above all, we stop you from overacting.
You have now gone too far, Liz. I think you'd better go away somewhere.
I've only just come back.
Monica! Monica! Come here at once.
What on earth's the matter?
Have you or have you not ever seen me overact?
Frequently.
Oh, it's a conspiracy. I knew it.
As a matter of fact, you're overacting now.
Very well. I give in. Everybody's against me. Oh, it doesn't matter about me. No, no, no. I'm only the breadwinner. It doesn't matter how much I'm insulted and wounded. It doesn't matter that my timorous belief in myself should be so subtly undermined.
Your belief in yourself is about as timorous as Napoleon's.
Oh, and look at what happened to him. He died forsaken and alone on a beastly little island in the middle of the sea.
Yes, islands have that in common.
Oh, you're trying to be funny now, because you're ashamed. I doubt if any of you would care a fig if I were exiled forever tomorrow. No, 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 no. You'd probably be delighted. I expect that's why I'm being forced to go to Africa.
Oh, you're longing to go and you know it. Oh, but oh, darling, do be careful when you're there, for heaven's sake. And don't go having affairs with everybody and showing off. Now then, about Morris. I want you to concentrate for a minute.
How can I concentrate? You come here and say the most awful things to me, tear the heart out of my bosom and jump up and down on it, and then say calmly, "Oh, now then, about Morris," as though you'd been discussing the weather.
I'm very worried. I think you'll have to do a little of your famous finger-wagging. It's Joanna.
Joanna?
Apparently Morris is in love with her. I don't know how far it's gone or any details, but I do know that if it's true, something ought to be done about it, and at once.
Huh. Morris and Joanna? He must be mad. Who told you?
Bobby first, when we were driving out from Versailles, but I didn't pay much attention to that because we all know he's the world's mischief maker anyhow. But about 2 nights later, Louise tackled me in Maxim's. She'd just arrived from here and was in a state about it. You know how she adores Henry.
Does Henry suspect anything?
Oh, I don't think so. But then he never would he? Until it was shoved under his nose?
Oh, he ought never to have married her. I always said it was a grave mistake. You can't introduce stereotyped, diamond-studded sirens into a closely knit group like ours without asking for trouble.
Oh, I don't think she's as stereotyped as all that. But she's dangerous, all right.
Oh, God. It's all too tiresome, really. It is. Just as I'm going away and everything. Might bust up the whole situation.
Well, if Henry finds out, it certainly will.
What are we to do?
You'd better, first of all, find out from Morris whether it's true or not. And if it is, how far it's gone. Then read the Riot Act and get him away. Take him to Africa with you. Anything.
Oh, there's that beastly young man from Uckfield. And here am I, trembling like a leaf. Oh, I can't meet him. I can't.
You've got to if you promised.
My life is one long torment and no one even remotely cares.
It might not be the young man at all. It might be Morris.
Oh, to hell with Morris. To hell with everybody.
Oh, don't be idiotic. You know as well as I do that if there is any truth in this Joanna business, it'll land us all in the most sordid complications and probably wreck everything. You've got to find out. And if you don't, I shall. I'm seeing him at 2:30.
He'd never tell you a thing. He'd only get into a rage and ask you to mind your own business.
I shall be in until 1:15. Telephone me when he's gone.
He won't go. I'm lunching with him. I can't give you a detailed report of his love life over the telephone with him in the room.
Dial my number by mistake and just say, I'm so sorry, it's a wrong number. Then I shall know.
What will you know?
That everything's all right. But if you say, I'm so terribly sorry, it's a wrong number, I'll know that everything's all wrong and be round in a flash to back you up.
Intrigue. My whole existence is enmeshed in intrigue.
Have you got that clear? Will you promise to do it?
All right. I'll tell you another fascinating thing about my life if you're interested. Nobody, in any circumstances, ever answers the bell under half an hour. Miss Erickson! Fred! The front doorbell, Fred, has been pealing incessantly for 20 minutes.
Alas, yes. Well, there's a woman at the back door with a tiny baby.
What does she want?
I do not know. There is no time to ask her.
Most of the silver's gone by now, I expect.
She'd be better advised to settle for some bread and cheese.
Monica, there's a woman at the back door with a tiny baby. Go and deal with her.
What does she want?
That can only be discovered by asking her. Kindly do so.
Oh, there's no need to snap at me.
Mr. Mole.
Ah, how do you do?
How do you do?
This is my wife, Mr. Mole. She just popped in for a minute and is now about to pop out again.
Oh, how do you do? Goodbye.
Don't forget, Gary, I'll be sitting by the telephone.
All right. Do sit down, won't you?
Thank you.
Cigarette?
No, thank you.
Don't you smoke?
No.
Drink?
No, thank you.
How old are you?
25. Why?
It really doesn't matter, I just wondered.
How old are you?
14 December. Jupiter, you know, very energetic.
Yes, of course.
You've come all the way from Uckfield.
Isn't very far.
Well, it sort of sounds far, doesn't it? This is my secretary, Miss Reed, Mr. Mole.
How do you do? I have your script in the office if you'd like to take it away with you.
Thank you very much.
I'll put it in an envelope.
I expected you hated it.
Well, to be candid, I thought it was a little uneven.
I thought you'd say that.
I'm glad I'm running so true to form.
I mean, it isn't really the sort of thing you would like, is it?
In that case, why on earth did you send it to me?
I took a chance. I mean, you only play rather trashy stuff as a rule, and I thought you might like to take a shot at something deeper.
What is there in your play that you consider so deep, Mr. Mole? Apart from the plot, which is completely submerged after the first 4 pages.
Plots aren't important. It's the ideas that matter. Look at Chekhov.
In addition to ideas, I think we might concede Chekhov a certain flimsy sense of psychology, don't you?
You mean my play isn't psychologically accurate?
It isn't very good. You know, really, it isn't.
I think it's very good indeed.
I understand that perfectly, but you must admit that my opinion, based on a lifelong experience of the theatre, might be the right one.
The commercial theatre.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
And I suppose you'll say that Shakespeare wrote for the commercial theatre, and that the only point of doing anything with drama is all to make money. All those old arguments. What you don't realise is that the theatre of the future is the theatre of ideas.
That may be, but at the moment I am occupied with the theatre of the present.
And what do you do with it? Every play you appear is exactly the same. Superficial, frivolous, without even the slightest intellectual significance. You have a great following, a strong personality, and all you do is prostitute yourself every night of your life. All you do with your talent is wear dressing gowns, make witty remarks, when you could be really helping people, making them think, making them feel.
Oh, there can be no two opinions about it. I'm having a most discouraging morning.
If you want to live in people's memories, you've got to go down in posterity as an important man. You do better do something about it quickly. There isn't a moment to be lost.
I don't give a hoot about posterity. Why should I worry about what people think of me when I'm dead as a doornail anyway? My worst defect is that I am apt to worry too much about what people think of me when I'm alive. But I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm changing my methods, oh yes, and you're my first experiment. To begin with, your play is not a play at all. It's a meaningless jumble of adolescent, pseudo-intellectual poppycock. It bears no relation to the theatre or to life or to anything. And you yourself would not be here if I hadn't been bloody fool enough to pick up the telephone when my secretary wasn't looking. Oh, now that you are here, however, I would like to tell you this. If you wish to be a playwright, you just leave the theatre of the tomorrow to take care of itself. Go and get yourself a job as a butler in a repertory company, if they'll have you. Learn from the ground up how plays are constructed and what is actable and what isn't. Then sit down and write at least 20 plays, one after the other, and if you can manage to get the 21st produced, you'll be damned lucky.
I had no idea you would like this. You're wonderful!
My God.
I am awfully sorry if you think I was impertinent, but I'm awfully glad too, because if I hadn't been, you wouldn't have got angry. If you hadn't got angry, I shouldn't have known what you were really like.
You don't in the least know what I'm really like.
Oh yes, I do, now.
I can't see that it matters anyhow.
It matters to me.
Why?
Do you really want to know?
What on earth are you talking about?
It's rather difficult to explain, really.
What is difficult to explain?
What I feel about you.
But
no, please let me speak. You see, in any way, I've been rather unhappy about you for quite a long time. You've been a sort of obsession with me. I saw you in your last play 47 times. One week I came every night because I was up in town trying to pass an exam.
Did you pass it?
No, I didn't.
I'm not entirely surprised.
My father wants me to be a lawyer. That's what the exam was for. But actually, I've been studying psychology a great deal because I felt somehow I wasn't at peace with myself. But gradually, bit by bit, I began to realize you signified something to me.
What sort of something?
I don't quite know. Not yet.
That, not yet is one of the most sinister remarks I have ever heard.
Oh, don't laugh at me. I'm always sick if anyone laughs at me.
You really are the most peculiar young man.
I'm all right now. Though, I feel fine.
Why, I'm delighted.
Can I come and see you again?
I'm afraid I'm going to Africa.
Would you see me if I came to Africa too?
I really think you'd be happier in Uckfield.
I expect you think I'm mad, but I'm not really. I just mind deeply about certain things. But I feel much better now because I think I shall be able to sublimate you. All right.
Good. Now, I'm afraid I shall have to turn you out because I'm expecting my manager and we have some business to discuss.
It's all right. I'm going immediately.
Shall I get your script?
No. Tear it up. You're quite right about it. It was only written with a part of myself. I see that now. Goodbye!
Goodbye. Monica!
Has he gone?
If ever that young man turns up again, get rid of him at all costs. He's mad as a hatter.
Why? What did he do?
He started by insulting me and finished by sublimating me. Oh, that's Morris.
I'll let him in.
There's a strange young man sitting on the stairs.
Oh, God, what's he doing?
Crying.
Oh, what have you been up to, Gary?
I haven't been up to anything. I merely told him what I thought of his play.
Well, I'm glad to see you haven't lost your touch.
Sherry, Morris.
Oh, thank you.
Henry?
Is it the same sherry that you always have?
Yes.
No, thank you.
Why? What's the matter with it?
Nothing much, it's just not very nice.
If anybody complains about anything else again, I shall go mad. The studio's been like a wailing wall all morning.
Liz is back.
Oh, how nice of you to let me know, Morris. I really must try and get in touch with her.
What's the matter with the old boy, Monica? He seems remarkably, how to say, crotchety.
Liz went for him a bit, and then I told him he overacted. He really has had rather a beastly time. And then that dotty young man on top of everything.
Never mind. Gary, God's in his heaven and all's right with the world. I've got some lovely bad news for you.
What?
Well, Nora Fenwick can't come to Africa.
Why not? What's the matter with her?
She's broken her leg.
Oh, well, really?
It isn't actually so terribly important.
Oh, no, not at all. It couldn't matter less. It merely means that I've got to spend all the voyage out rehearsing a new woman in 6 different character parts. How did the silly bitch do it?
She fell down at Victoria Station.
Oh, she'd no right to be at Victoria Station. Who can we get?
Morris wants Beryl Willard, but I don't think she's quite right.
So, you want Beryl Willard, do you?
Why not? She's extremely competent.
Oh, no, I agree with you. Beryl Willard is extremely competent. She has been extremely competent for well over 40 years. In addition to her competence, she has contrived with uncanny skill to sustain a spotless reputation for being the most paralyzing, epoch-making, monumental, world-shattering, god-awful bore that ever drew breath.
Now, really, Gary, I don't see how...
Oh, you don't see. Very well, I will explain further. Just one thing, and it's this. No prayer, no bribe, no threat, no power, human or divine, would induce me to go to Africa with Beryl Willard. I wouldn't go as far as Wimbledon with Beryl Willard.
What he's trying to say is that he doesn't care for Beryl Willard.
All right. Oh, she's out. Whom do you suggest?
Just a minute. If we're going to start one of those casting arguments, I'm going. I've got to catch a plane for Brussels.
What are you going to Brussels for, anyhow?
Business. Nice, ordinary, straightforward business. I can't wait to get there. Goodbye, sweetie. Try to be a little more amiable when I come back. Goodbye, Monica. Goodbye, Morris. And, by the way, you might call up Joanna. She's all alone.
Oh, I have. I'm taking her to the opening at the Haymarket tomorrow night.
Fine. Well, goodbye.
Do you want me anymore?
Why, what are you going to do?
I'm going to write to Beryl Willard and ask her to come and live with you.
So, you're taking Joanna to the Haymarket tomorrow night, are you?
Yes. Why?
Oh, I think I shall come too.
All right. That'll be grand. I've got a box, so there'll be a lot of room.
Why have you been so mournful lately?
Oh, I haven't been in the least bit mournful.
Oh, yes, you have. Liz has noticed it, and so have I.
Oh, well, you're both quite wrong. I'm perfectly happy.
You like Joanna, don't you?
What? Of course I do. She's darling.
Are you in love with her?
In love with Joanna? Of course I'm not.
Or are you preparing to be? I can generally tell when you're about to embark on one of your little emotional rampages.
Well, I do like that, I must say. What about you?
Oh, never mind about me for a moment. Nobody could accuse me of being emotional anyway.
Well, couldn't they just look at Sylvia Laurie. You carried on like a maniac over her for weeks. All that sobbing and the screaming.
That was years ago.
Never mind when it was. And if that wasn't emotional, I should like to know what is. You tore us all to shreds.
I noticed that you've turned the conversation very adroitly into an attack on me.
Now, listen here, Gary.
Do you swear to me that you haven't had an affair with Joanna?
I'm damned if I'll be cross-questioned like this.
Have you or have you not?
You mind your own business.
My God, if this isn't my business, nothing is. If you're fooling about with Joanna on the side and Henry finds out, do you realize what it will mean?
I refuse to go on with this conversation.
You can refuse until you're blue in the face. You're going to listen to me.
You leave me alone.
Sit down, this really is serious.
I've no intention of submitting to one of your famous finger-wagging tirades. I'm sick to death of them.
Many years ago, Morris, very many years ago, before you were so sick to death of them, you might just as well admit they helped you considerably.
Of course I admit it. So what?
We've never lied to each other about anything really vital to us, have we?
No.
And it would be rather foolish of us, after all those turbulent years, to start now, wouldn't it?
All right. But nobody has, as far as I can see.
I'm not going to ask you one more question. I'm not even going to bellow at you. Much. But that all depends upon whether or not you annoy me. I am, however, going to make you see one thing clearly, and it's this. You and Henry and Monica and Liz and I share something of inestimable importance to all of us. And that something is mutual respect and trust. Here we are, 5 people, closely woven together by affection and work and intimate knowledge of each other. It's too important to set up to risk breaking for any outside emotional reason whatsoever. Joanna is alien to us. She doesn't really belong to us and never could. If she could succeed in wreaking havoc among all of us, I'm quite sure she would leave no stone unturned. She's a scalp hunter, that baby, if ever I saw one. And all I implore you is this. Be careful, is that clear?
Quite. I think I'll have a little more sherry.
Oh, give me some too, I need it. Thanks. Oh, good heavens, it's past 1. I forgot to telephone up for a table.
Oh, there's no need. We can always go upstairs.
Oh, upstairs smells of potted shrimps. It won't take a minute to ring up. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's a wrong number.
Well, I'm off now. Have you got everything you want?
You're very dressy. Where are you going?
Tigani.
Is it a dance hall or a nightclub or what?
A bit of all sorts, really. Doris works there.
What does she do?
She sings a couple of numbers and does a dance with a skipping rope.
Very enjoyable.
I think it's a bit wet, if you ask me, but it still goes down all right.
Are you going to marry Doris, Fred?
Me? Marry? What a hope!
You know, you really are dreadfully immoral, Fred.
That's right.
I know for a fact that you've been taking advantage of Doris for over 2 years now.
Why not, Gary? She likes it. I like it. And a good time's had by all.
What will she do when we go to Africa?
Oh, she'll manage. She got a couple of blokes running round after her now.
Oh, I see. She's communal.
Will you ring in the morning as usual? Or does you want to be called?
I'll ring. Has Miss Erickson gone?
Oh, yeah, she went early, yeah. She had to come over about 6 o'clock and upped it. She's gone to a friend in Hammersmith. Yeah, they turned out all the lights, played a gramophone and talked to an Indian.
Oh. Well, I suppose if it makes her happy, it's all right.
She's a good worker, even if she is a bit scatty. You can't have everything, can you? Would that be all, Gary?
Yes. Thank you, Fred. Enjoy yourself.
Well, same to you, sir.
Hello? Hello, who's that speaking? Oh, Liz. Oh, no. I've been in about half an hour. Yes, dear, yes, quite alone. I'm turning over a new leaf, hadn't you heard? Yes, with both of them. And went to supper with them at the Savoy afterwards. And Morris and I dropped her home. Yes, and no, I didn't go on about it anymore. I thought it wiser not. You sound a little sceptical. No, as a matter of fact, she was very charming. She's quite intelligent, you know. I must say, she's a permanent pleasure to the eye. All right, yes, of course. Yes, I'm going straight to bed now. Good night, darling.
I can't tell you how relieved I am that you're in. I've done the most idiotic thing.
Why? What's happened?
I've forgotten my latchkey.
Oh, Joanna.
Oh, it's no good looking at me like that. I'm not in the least inefficient as a rule. This is the first time I've ever done such a thing in my life. I'm in an absolute fury. I had to dress in the most awful rush to dine with Frida and go to the Toscanini concert, and I left it in my other bag.
And I suppose the servants sleep at the top of the house.
And they do more than sleep. They apparently go off into a coma. I've been battering on the door for nearly half an hour.
Would you like a drink?
Oh, very much indeed. I'm exhausted.
We must decide what's best to be done.
I went to a call office and I rang up Liz, but she must be out because there wasn't any reply.
You rang up Liz and there wasn't any reply?
Yes. And as I hadn't any more coppers and the taxi man hadn't either, I came straight here.
Cigarette?
Thank you. You're looking very whimsical. Don't you believe me?
Of course I believe you, Joanna. Why on earth shouldn't I?
I don't know. You always look at me as though you don't trust me an inch. It's a shame, because I'm so nice, really.
I'm sure you are, Joanna.
I know that voice, Gary. You've used it in every play you've ever been in.
Complete naturalness on the stage is my strong suit.
You've never liked me, really, have you?
No, not particularly.
I wonder why.
Well, I always had a feeling you were rather tiresome.
In what way tiresome?
Oh, I don't know. There's a certain arrogance about you, a little too much self-assurance.
No, you don't care for competition, I see.
You're lovely looking, of course. I've always thought that.
Thank you.
If perhaps a little too aware of it.
You're being conventionally odious, but somehow it doesn't quite ring true. But then you never do quite ring true, do you? I expect it's because you're an actor. They're always apt to be a bit papier-mâché.
Oh, just puppets, Joanna dear. Creatures of tinsel and sawdust. How clever of you to have noticed it.
I wish you'd stop being so suave, just for a minute.
Oh, what would you like me to do? Fly into a tantrum? Burst into tears?
I think I should like you to be kind.
Kind?
Yes. At least kind enough to make an effort to overcome your perfectly obvious prejudice against me.
I'm sorry it's so obvious.
I'm not quite an idiot, although I must say you always treat me as if I were. I know you resented me marrying Henry, you all did, and I entirely see why you should have anyhow at first. But after all, that's 5 years ago, and during that time I've done my best not to obtrude myself, not to encroach on any special preserves. My reward has been rather meagre, from you particularly. Nothing but artificial politeness and a slightly frigid tolerance.
Poor Joanna.
I see my appeal has fallen on stony ground. I'm so sorry.
What is all this? What are you up to?
I'm not up to anything.
Then sit down again.
I'd like you to call me a taxi.
Nonsense. There's nothing you'd hate more. You came here for a purpose, didn't you?
Of course I did. I lost my key. I knew you had a spare room, and
Well,
I wanted to get to know you a little better.
I see.
Oh, no, you don't. I know exactly what you think. Of course, I can't altogether blame you. In your position as one of the world's most famous romantic comedians, it's only natural that you should imagine that every woman is anxious to hurl herself at your head. I'm sure, for instance, that you don't believe for a moment that I've lost my latchkey.
Oh, you're good. My God, you're good.
What's the number for the taxi rank, then? I'll ring it up myself.
Sloane 2664.
Hello? Hello? Is that Sloane 26... Oh, I'm so sorry. It's the wrong number. What are you laughing at?
You, Joanna.
Oh, you're enjoying yourself immensely, aren't you?
Oh, you win, you win, you win.
Give me that telephone and don't be so infuriating.
Have another drink?
No, thank you.
Just one more cigarette.
No.
Conversation seems to have come to a standstill.
I think perhaps I would like another drink after all. A very small one. You make me feel extraordinarily self-conscious. Of course, it's one of your most renowned gifts, isn't it? Frightening people.
Oh, you're not going to pretend that I frighten you.
It's personality, I expect. Plus a reputation for being, well, rather ruthless.
Oh. Amorously or socially?
Both.
Well, how are we doing?
Better, I think. Are you happy on the whole?
Joanna, what do you want?
I want you to be what I believe you really are. Friendly and genuine. Someone to be trusted. I want you to do me the honor of stopping your eternal performance, ring down the curtains, take off your makeup, and relax.
I was right about you from the first. You're as predatory as hell.
Gary!
You got the wretched Henry when he was convalescent. You made a dead set of Morrows, and now, by God, you're after me. Don't deny it. I can see it in your eye.
Oh, really, darling?
How dare you call me darling?
Because I think you are a darling. I always have.
Go away immediately.
You're really the reason I married a Henry.
Are there no depths to which you won't descend?
Absolutely none. I'm in love with you. I've been in love with you for over 7 years now, and it's high time something was done about it.
This is dreadful.
First of all, I want you to promise me to answer one question absolutely truthfully. Will you?
What is it?
If you'd never seen me in your life before, if we had met for the first time tonight, if I was in no way concerned with you or anyone you knew, would you have made love to me? Would you have wanted me?
Yes.
Well, that's that. Now then.
Look here, Joanna.
Shut up! You must be fair. You must let me explain. When I said just now that you were the reason I married Henry, well, that was only partly true. I'm devoted to Henry, much fonder of him, really, than he is of me. He was madly in love with me for the first 2 years, but he isn't now. Henry has been lightly unfaithful to me 11 times to my certain knowledge during the last 3 years. He's probably having a high old time in Brussels at this very moment.
You're lying, Joanna.
I'm not lying. I don't mind enough to lie. Henry's a darling, and I wouldn't leave him for anything in the world. We get on perfectly. Better now, really, than we did before. But you're the one I'm in love with, and always have been.
What about Morris?
Morris? Don't be so idiotic. He's only a step nearer you.
Is he in love with you? Has there been anything between you?
Of course there hasn't. He's quite sweet, but doesn't attract me in the least, and never could.
Do you swear that?
There's no need for me to swear it. You can see, can't you? And even if you can't see, you must at least be able to feel that what I'm saying is the truth.
Are you so sure it's foolish?
It's the most foolish thing in the world to store up regrets. Who could you and I possibly harm by loving each other for a little?
Please, may I get up now?
Yes.
How was the, Toscanini concert?
Glorious. He played the 8th and the 7th.
Personally, I prefer the 5th.
I like the 9th best of all.
Oh. There's nothing like the dear old 9th.
I love the Queen's Hall, don't you? It's so uncompromising.
I love the Albert Hall much more.
I wonder why. I always find it depressing.
Oh, not when they do the Hiawatha, surely.
Even then.
I won't hear a word against the Albert Hall.
Good morning, Monica.
Joanna!
Thank heaven you came. I've had the most complicated chat with the housekeeper.
Did you stay the night here?
Yes. Wasn't it sweet of Gary to let me? I did the most idiotic thing. I lost my latchkey.
You lost your latchkey.
I was in absolute despair, and then suddenly I thought of Gary.
Well, thank heavens for Gary.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is Mr. Essendine awake yet?
He has not run.
I wonder if you'd be very kind to tell him that I am awake.
Alas, no. You would be crazy with anger.
Would he indeed? Well, I should be crazy with anger myself unless I have some breakfast. I've been ringing that bell there for hours.
It does not work.
Oddly enough, that dawned on me after a while.
It is the mice. They eat right through the wires. They're very destructive.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. Oh, Miss. Oh, dear.
I beg your pardon?
You're Miss Lipia, isn't ya?
Yes, I am.
Whew!
That, I gather, was Mr. Essendine's valet. Does he always behave like that?
He was a steward on a very large ship.
Most of the ship stewards I've met have good manners.
He is the only one I know.
I would like some China tea, some thin toast with their butter, and a soft-boiled egg, please.
We have no tea and no eggs either, but I will make the toast with pleasure.
Is there any coffee?
Yes, we have coffee.
Well, please bring me some as quickly as you can.
I will tell Fred.
And as he was on such a very large ship, perhaps he could do something about the tap in that bathroom.
Alas, he was not a bathroom steward.
Joanna, you're still here, I see.
Why, Monica, you actually look as if you disapproved of my staying the night here.
I think it was tactless, to say the least of it.
In heaven's name, why? It was a perfectly natural thing to do in the circumstances.
When's Henry coming home?
Tomorrow, by the 11 o'clock plane. Is there anything else you'd like to know?
No, I don't think I want to know anything else at all.
I must say, Monica, I really do resent your manner a little bit. Anyone would think I've done something awful.
Well, obviously you are a better judge of that than I.
It's quite astounding to think that anyone as close to Gary as you have been for so many years should have such a prurient mind.
I'm sure you must be shocked to the marrow.
I really don't feel equal to continuing this rather strained conversation before I've had some coffee. Perhaps you'd be kind enough to hurry it up for me.
I always knew it.
Always knew what?
That you'd cause trouble. I'll see about your coffee. There's somebody at the door. You'd better go to the spare room.
Oh, I'm quite happy here, thank you.
As you please.
Good morning, Joanna. This is a surprise.
Oh, Liz! I tried to get you for hours last night. I lost my latchkey and I was in the most awful state. But you weren't in.
I was in from 10 o'clock onwards. You must have been ringing the wrong number.
I rang the number you gave me.
Oh, then I must have given you the wrong number.
If you want me, Liz, I shall be in the office.
I do want you, Monica, so don't barge.
Ah, breakfast.
Where will you have it?
Here, please.
Oh, good morning, miss.
Good morning, Fred. I think it would be more comfortable for Mrs. Lippiat to have her coffee in the spare room.
I'd rather have it here, if you don't mind. I like to see what's going on.
Put it down there for the moment, Fred. We will decide later where Mrs. Lippiat is going to have her coffee.
I've already decided, Liz, but it's sweet of you to take so much trouble.
That'll be all. Thank you, Fred.
Right, yo. Give us a shout if you want anything, miss.
Thanks. I will.
I understand he used to be a steward on a liner.
I suppose Gary hasn't been called yet, has he?
No, I don't think so. Shall I go and wake him now?
No, not yet.
He ought to be awakened at once, Liz. It's disgraceful lying in bed on a lovely morning like this. So unhealthy. He'd be getting fat and flabby if he's not careful.
I wish to God he would.
I wonder what she put in this coffee. Apart from the coffee, I mean.
Weed killer, if she had any sense.
You're really being remarkably offensive, Monica. One always hears that the secretaries of famous men are rather frustrated and dragon-like. It's funny that you should turn out to be so true to type.
The only thing that's frustrating me at the moment is a wholesome fear of the gallows.
I think, after all, perhaps you had better go into the office, Monica. This situation is becoming rather tense.
For no reason at all, as far as I can see. Unless you all have the most unpleasant minds.
All right, Liz.
I'll come in a minute.
Poor thing. She's ever so much more faded than when I first met her. I suppose she's mad about Gary like all of us.
All of us, Joanna?
I must say, he is enchanting. We had the most lovely talk last night.
I think it would be better if neither Henry nor Morris knew you stayed the night here, Joanna.
Good heavens, why? Henry wouldn't mind a bit.
I wouldn't be too sure if I were you. Anyhow, Morris would.
Morris? What on earth has Morris to do with it?
Oh, really, Joanna?
I haven't the faintest idea what you're talking about.
Now listen, we haven't much time to waste fencing with each other. I know perfectly well that you have been unfaithful to Henry with Morris, so you needn't trouble to deny it any further.
It's the most abominable lie!
Unfortunately, I dined quietly with Morris last night, upstairs at the Ivy. He was very upset and became rather hysterical, as you know he sometimes does, and he told me everything.
He told you everything, did he?
It's quite natural that he should. We're very old friends, you know. All of us.
How dare he discuss me with you, or with anybody?
Oh, don't be silly, Joanna.
A charming constellation of gossipy little planets circling round a great glorious sun.
Yes, I was coming to that.
And what do you mean?
I don't wish to know anything about what happened last night. But I'll tell you one thing. The great glorious sun is not going to get tangled up in this if I can stop it. And I can.
I should be interested to know how.
I don't think Gary would like to know that you had been Morris's mistress as well as Henry's wife. I don't think Morris would like to know that you have been Gary's mistress, which I suspect you have.
Mistress indeed! Melodramatic nonsense!
And I don't think Henry would like to know anything about any of it.
Are you trying to blackmail me?
Yes, I am.
You mean that you'd be low enough to tell Gary?
Yes. And Morris. And Henry. I'll tell them all unless you do as I say.
I suppose you're still in love with Gary yourself.
Not in the least. But even if I were, it's entirely beside the point. I certainly love him. I love Henry and Morris too. We've all been devoted to one another for many years, and it would take more than you to break it up permanently. But I'm not taking any risks of you even upsetting it temporarily. You're going to do what I tell you.
And what if I don't?
Oh, you'll be out, my dear. With all of us, forever. With Gary most of all, quite soon. You wouldn't like that, you know. It would be very shaming to your vanity.
Oh, you're very sure.
Absolutely positive. I know Gary very well, you know. After all, I've had every opportunity.
It's a pity you ever left him.
For him, yes, I think it is.
And why should you imagine that I should mind so terribly, even if I were out with all of you, as you so put it?
Principally because you made such a terrific effort to get in. You'd have had better results, and much quicker too, if you hadn't been so determined to be alluring.
I've never been talked to like this in my life!
Well, make the most of it. There isn't much time. What are you going to do?
Do? I'm not going to do anything.
Are you going to be sensible and do what I ask you, or not?
You haven't asked me anything yet.
I want you to promise me that you won't see Gary again before he goes to Africa.
Well, really?
Will you promise that?
No, certainly not. It's nonsense. And even if I did, how do I know that I can trust you? And Monica? What about her?
And Monica won't say a word, and I won't either. If you swear not to see Gary again before he goes to Africa.
I'm bound to see him again. How can I avoid it?
You can be ill. You can go to Paris. Anywhere.
I've no intention of doing any such thing.
Very well. Fred? Fred?
It'll be you who's breaking everything up. Not me.
Did you call a miss?
Go and wake Mr. Gary immediately, will you?
Oh, right-yo.
Oh, you'd better answer the door first. It's Morris. He told me last night he was coming to see Gary at 11.
Oh, look here, Liz.
I'm Dad, really. It'll be more convenient.
Oh, I can't face him. It'll be too unpleasant. I'll do what you say.
You swear it? You swear you won't see him again? You'll go away?
Yes, yes. I swear it.
Quickly, get into the spare room. Don't come out until I tell you.
Hey, it's a Mr. Mole. He says he's got an appointment.
Mr. what?
A Mr. Mole. He looks a bit wet to me.
Oh dear. Well, I suppose you'd better show him in. Miss Reed can deal with him. I'll tell her.
Right-yo.
Monica? Monica?
What is it?
A Mr. Mole is here?
Oh, he's no right to be here. He's raving mad.
I'm Mr. Mole.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've met before. Do you remember?
Yes, very well. Just the other day.
Have you an appointment with Mr. Essendine?
Oh, yes, indeed. I spoke to him on the telephone last night. He told me I was to come at 10:30. I fear I'm a little late.
I'm afraid you can't see him just at the moment. Could you come back later?
Isn't there anywhere I could wait?
Go into the office for a moment and I'll find out when Mr. Essendine can see you.
It's very kind of you. Thanks very much.
Not at all. This way.
Oughtn't I have let him in?
I don't know. He says Mr. Gary told him to come, although I can hardly believe he did. You'd better go and wake him and ask him.
No, Monica. Don't wake Gary yet. I'd rather he slept on a bit.
All right, Fred. We'll call him later.
It's all the same to me.
Listen, Monica. I've guaranteed that you and I won't say a word to Henry or Morris or anybody about her being here if she swears not to see Gary again before he goes.
Did she?
Yes, she did. But Morris will be here at any moment and it's going to be awkward. There's a telephone in the spare room, isn't there?
Yes.
Is it the same number as this or different?
It's the private wire. This one is the extension of the office.
What's the number?
You know it, the private line, Sloan 2642.
There he is. Leave this to me. I'll explain later.
Oh, Mr. Maul, what are you doing?
Gary, where are you going?
Out.
Out where?
Just out. I suppose I can go out if I want to, can't I?
I never even knew you was up. You are a dark horse, and no mistake.
Don't be impertinent, Fred, and go away.
All right. The gentleman's in the office, and the lady's in the spare room if you was looking or happen to want either of them.
Huh. What's he talking about? The boys off his rocker.
Lady, really, Gary, you're impossible. Who is it?
I would be so very much obliged if everybody would mind their own goddamn business.
For heaven's sake, get rid of her. I've got to talk to you. Well, you see, I'm in a bad way.
What's the matter?
Oh, well, get rid of her first, whoever she is. She's probably got her ear clamped to the keyhole.
How can I get rid of her? She may be in the bath.
Well, tell her to hurry then.
Now look here, Morris.
If you won't, I will.
Morris, I forbid you to go near that room.
Will you please come out as soon as you can?
I'm coming. I was only just powdering my nose.
Liz, why, 'tis you.
Well, of course. Who did you think it was?
But what on earth were you making such a fuss about, Gary?
I? Make a fuss? I don't know what you mean.
Why are you so completely dressed very suddenly? You were asleep a few minutes ago.
No, I wasn't. No, I most gravely doubt whether I shall ever be able to sleep again.
Perhaps your conscience was troubling you.
I cannot, for the life of me, imagine why everybody is so absolutely beastly to me. I'm bullied and cross-questioned and ordered about from morning till night. I can't wait to get to Africa and to be away from the lot of you.
Won't exactly be unrelieved sadness for us.
Oh, for God's sake, stop bickering, both of you. I'm in the most awful state.
What about?
Please, knows. I told her last night.
What does Liz know? What did you tell her last night?
Oh, pull yourself together, Morris. Have a drink or something. Try not to be silly.
I don't want a drink. If I have a drink, it'll make it much worse. It always does.
This is the most fascinating little conversation, but I must say I should appreciate the full flavour of it much more if I had just an inkling as to what it was all about.
I haven't slept for 3 nights, Gary, ever since you talked to me the other morning.
Oh dear.
Why not?
It's bad enough getting one of my awful obsessions. You know what I'm like when I get an obsession. God knows, you've helped me through enough of them, but this time I've made an utter fool of myself and I've lied you into the bargain.
Lied to me, you mean?
It's Joanna. It's Joanna and I love each other, Gary.
Oh, God.
It's been going on for several months, but we made a pact that we'd lie about it to everyone, whatever happened, in order not to make an awful mess and upset everything. But I'm not used to lying to you, Gary. I never have before, and it's been absolutely driving me mad ever since. Yesterday afternoon, I couldn't bear it any longer, and I told Joanna, and I was going to tell you. She was furious, and she said she would never speak to me again if I did, and went away and left me. I've been trying to find her ever since she's gone and disappeared. Her servants say she hasn't been home all night, and I'm so terrified that something has happened to her.
Perhaps it has.
You don't like her, Liz. You never did. I'm not sure that I do really, but I love her.
The whole thing's very fragrant, isn't it, Gary? You needn't fuss any more, Morris. Joanna spent the night with me.
Spent the night with you?
Yes, on the sofa. She lost her latchkey. She's there now. I told her I'd tell you to ring her up if I saw you.
I'll go round now.
Oh, you'd better ring up first and see if she's still there. She may have gone out. I'll get the number for you. Hello, Maggie? Is Mrs. Lippiat still there? All right. Here you are, Morris. God, you unutterable fool.
Joanna? Oh, yes, 'tis me, Maurice. Look, I've been terribly worried. Why didn't you just tell me you were with Liz?
How did you get her out?
She's not out. She's in there, on the other line.
You see, I thought something had happened to you. Why, yes, I'm at the studio. No, only Liz and Gary. Yes, I have to. I had to. But how can you be so cruel? Listen, Joanna, I must see you. Joanna? Oh, she's gone and hung up the phone.
Serve you right.
I must see her. What am I to do?
Control yourself and don't be so hysterical.
I'm going to Liz's flat right now.
You're not. You're coming with me.
Coming with you? Where to?
Hampstead Heath.
Hampstead Heath? It's cruel and heartless of you to try me funny at a moment like this, when you know that I'm utterly miserable.
I'm not trying to be funny at all. What's the matter with Hampstead Heath? Anybody'd think I'd suggested taking you to Devil's Island.
Oh, be quiet, Gary. Oh, be quiet, Gary. Listen, Morris, it really would be better if you didn't try to see Joanna in your present state. Have a drink and calm down. You can see her later in the day.
I'm surrounded by lies and intrigue and sickening emotionalism. I tell you here and now, I'm not going to put up with it for a minute longer. My whole life is spent in trying to help people, in give them wise, sensible advice, in trying to shield them from the buffets of fate, and what's the result? They batten on me. They drain every ounce of vitality out of me until I'm a nerveless wreck, and then expect me to go trampling all over Africa in order to make money for them. Well, it's not good enough. I'm sick to death of the whole business. If ever I attempt to snatch a little happiness for myself, a little gaiety, a little relaxation, I'm accused of being immoral and undignified and letting down my position. Oh, position indeed. I have no more position than a little frightened beetle cringing into the shadows, trying frantically to hide away from the blinding, merciless light of criticism that is forever beating down upon me. And
Did you or did you not give an appointment to Mr. Maule this morning?
I most emphatically did not. He terrifies the life out of me.
Well, he's here.
I'm afraid I told a wicked lie about the appointment, but I must see you. It's very, very, very important.
Oh, Mr. Maule, you promised to stay in the office?
I want to tell you that it's all right.
What's all right?
About what I felt about you. I've got the whole thing straightened out.
Oh. Well, I'm absolutely delighted, Mr. Mole, and I congratulate you from the bottom of my heart, but you really must go away now.
Please go now, Mr. Maule. Mr. Essendine's in the middle of a conference.
Like hell I am! Fred! Miss Erickson! There is somebody at the door. I have not the remotest idea who it is, but I strongly suspect that it is a mad cripple from Stoke Pages who is passionately in love with me!
I'll go.
Mr. Maule, I really do think it would be better if you were to come back later.
Couldn't I stay a little longer? You see, every moment I'm near him, I get smoother and smoother and smoother. My whole rhythm improves tremendously.
Where's Joanna? She's disappeared.
Oh, I thought you weren't coming back until tomorrow.
She hasn't been home all night. Nobody knows where she is.
It's all right, Henry. She stayed with me.
What? But I rang up Maggie and she said she hadn't seen her.
There's a reason for that. I'll explain later.
No. Something's happened. I had a presentiment in the aeroplane.
Well, I always have a presentiment in an aeroplane. A presentiment that I'm going to be sick. And I think I'm going to be sick now.
But why did Maggie say that...
Ring her up if you don't believe me. Monica, get my flat on the telephone.
How do you do? My name's Roland Mall.
How do you do?
Roland Mall. I don't think we've met.
Please go away, Mr. Mole.
Hello, Joanna. Hold on a minute. Henry wants to speak to you. Yes, he's here, in the studio.
Darling, you gave me the most awful fright. No, I got through everything yesterday and there was no sense in staying... Well, I sent a telegram. No, I couldn't think what had happened. Yes, we're all here. No, I think I shall have to lunch with Morris. There's been some difficulty about a theatre for Gary for the play in the autumn. Oh, are you coming back to the house? Yes, all right. I'll be in to change in about half an hour. Very well, darling. I'll tell her. She says she's going to be out in a minute.
Tell her to stay where she is. I'll pop in and see her presently.
Liz says to stay where you are and she'll be round presently. Joanna, whatever is the matter? She says that she feels as if she were in a French farce and is sick to death of it. She sounds upset.
Oh, that's the telephone. It never stops ringing. Tell her to shut it off.
Liz says you're to shut off the telephone. Joanna? Hello? She's hung up.
There's a lady Saltburn outside, Mrs. Reed. She says she's got an appointment for 11:30.
Who?
Oh, good heavens. What's today?
Black Thursday.
Oh, Thursday. I'd completely forgotten. Lady Saltburn's niece. You promised you'd give her an audition and recommend her to RADA or something. Don't you remember?
No, I do not remember. She must be sent away immediately.
Oh, we can't send Lady Saltburn away. She gave us £50 for the Footlights Fund.
How can I possibly listen to people's nieces this morning? I'm on the verge of a nervous breakdown already.
Why? What's happened?
Too much, Henry. Far, far too much.
You must see her. It won't take a minute. It would be most terribly rude not to. After all, you promised. Ask her in, Fred.
Right,
Oh, it's all very exciting, isn't it?
Listen, we'd better go. I'll come back later. Goodbye, Gary, Liz, Henry.
All right, we'll go back to Liz's flat and talk to Joanna. It's only round the corner.
No. I must go to the office, and you must come with me. It is urgent. Lady Saltburn, Mr. Linton.
Thank you, Monica. You're a great comfort to me.
Oh, Mr. Essendine! This is so charming of you.
Not at all. It's a pleasure.
This is my niece, Daphne. I believe you knew her mother years ago. She died, you know, in Africa.
Oh, how do you do?
I've been longing to meet you, Mr. Essendine. I've loved everything you've ever done.
How very nice of you.
Daphne simply wouldn't give me any peace until I had rung up your secretary and absolutely implored her for an appointment. She's so tremendously keen, you know.
Oh, she must be. I must introduce you to everybody. My wife, my secretary, Miss Reed.
Oh, how do you do? How do you do? Oh, you were so kind on the telephone.
Mr. Dixon, Mr. Lippiat, and Mr. Moe.
Oh, how do you do? Oh, this is quite a peek behind the scenes, isn't it, Daphne?
This is the most thrilling moment of my life, Mr. Essendine. I've always wondered what you'd be like close to.
Oh, you mustn't embarrass Mr. Essendine, Daphne.
I'm sure he understands. Don't you, Mr. Essendine?
Of course, my dear. I understand perfectly. But I'm afraid I can only give you just a few minutes. You see, I'm terribly busy now, making arrangements for my tour in Africa.
Oh, I had no idea you were going to Africa. Oh, how very interesting. Oh, you really must pay a visit to my brother-in-law. He lives on top of the most beautiful mountain.
I do hope you'll forgive us, but we really must go now. We have to go to the office. Goodbye.
How sad. Goodbye.
Morris, Liz.
I'm staying here for a little. I'll come later.
Goodbye, Lady Saltburn. Daphne, goodbye.
Goodbye, Mr. Mole.
I'm staying too.
Oh,
Won't you sit down, Lady Saltburn?
Oh, thank you so much. Are you ready, Daphne? You know how busy Mr. Essendine is. I'm sure it's very sweet of him to see us at all. We mustn't impose on him.
Yes, I'm ready.
what are you going to do?
Nothing very much. I'll try not to bore you. You see, I want you to hear me so very much. It means everything to me. You will hear me, won't you? You can hear me, can't you? And you're not angry with me, are you?
Daphne, really? What are you talking about?
Oh, Mr. Essendine understands. Don't you, Mr. Essendine?
Mr. Essendine understands everything. He spends his whole life understanding absolutely everything, and what nobody else seems to understand is that the strain of it is driving him step by step to a suicide's grave.
Don't be affected, Gary.
My wife, Lady Saltburn, left me several years ago. Gnawing regret has embittered her.
There's nothing worse than regret. Look at Chekhov.
We have no time at the moment to look at Chekhov, Mr. Mole. Now, please don't be nervous. What are you going to do? Sing?
I'm not nervous, but I wish you weren't so many miles away. And I'm not going to sing. I'm just going to say a few lines.
Very well. Fire away.
We meet not as we part.
Oh, God!
We feel more than all may see. My bosom is heavy-hearted and thine full of doubt for me. One moment has bound the free. That moment has gone forever, like lightning that flashed and died, like a snowflake upon the river, like a sunbeam upon the tide which the dark shadows hide. That moment from time was signalled as the first of a life of pain. The cup of its joy was mingled, delusion too sweet though vain, too sweet to be mine again.
That room is like a Frigidaire, and I have no intention of staying in it 1 minute longer. Will somebody kindly call me a taxi?
Oh dear!
You'd better take my car, Joanna. It's downstairs.
The chauffeur's got red hair, and his name's Frobisher.
Daphne!
Thank you very much. I shan't see you again, Gary, as I'm going to Paris tomorrow for a month. So this is goodbye. I do hope that when you go to Africa, you'll be wise enough to take your staunch, loyal satellites with you. It's too dangerous for a little tinsel star to go twinkling off alone and unprotected. Please don't imagine that I haven't enjoyed the circus enormously. I have. But in the circuses I've been to, it was always the ringmaster who cracked the whip, not the clowns. Goodbye!
Oh, she's fainted! This is splendid, splendid! I feel reborn!
Oh, go to hell!
Listen to this letter. I shall never forget those lovely days in Madeira and our picnics on the rocks. What fun we had. It really was wonderful getting to know you intimately like that without you being surrounded by crowds of people all the time. I can never begin to tell you how much it meant to me. Now for my exciting news. I am coming to England. Imagine, for the first time for 7 years. I arrive on the 28th and shall be in London for 3 whole weeks. You remember you told me to let you know a good time beforehand if I should be coming, so I'm doing so. I am so longing to see you again. With my love and many, many glorious memories, yours, Winnie.
Oh, poor Winnie. When's it dated?
November the 7th.
Over 6 months ago. Oh, she must be gone by now.
You told me to put it into Mount Pleasant.
Oh, well, it's too late to answer it.
Much. She'd probably have been an awful nuisance anyhow. Don't forget your ship stops at Madeira in a few days' time. You'd better lock yourself in the cabin.
Not at all. If I run into her, I shall say I never got the letter, and that it's my secretary's fault.
That's what I said. Here's one signed Joe.
Oh, Joe what?
Just Joe. It's dated February the 2nd.
Let's look.
He seems to have met you in the south of France.
Oh, I do get about, don't I? Oh, it's Joe.
That's what I said.
Oh, Joe was wonderful. I met him at a bar in Marseille. He's dark green and comes from Madras. What does he want?
It's at the end, after the bit about his sister having a baby.
Oh, yes. Well, why didn't you send him one?
Because I didn't consider that Joe Madras was a sufficient address.
Well, I'm damned if I can remember his other name.
Well, he's out of luck then, isn't he?
What's that large packet?
Those are from that mad woman in Herne Bay. You said you'd read them sometime because they might be interesting psychologically.
Ooh, well, I haven't time now. You'd better keep them, though, for evidence in case she murders me someday.
I don't think she wants to murder you, merely to live with you.
Herne Bay. I don't think I've ever been to Herne Bay.
Never mind about Herne Bay now, dear. We've got too much to do.
I wonder if I shall ever see Green England again.
I see no reason why you shouldn't.
I might die of some awful tropical disease or be bitten by a snake or something.
I doubt if there are many snakes in the larger cities.
I can see myself under a mosquito net, fighting for breath.
Who with?
You have no imagination, Monica. Just a flat, literal mind. It must be very depressing for you.
Oh, I get by.
Oh, how many more are there to do?
About 20.
I can't bear it. Put them back in Mount Pleasant until I come back.
You seem to be in doubt just now as to whether you were coming back.
Well, I can't answer the letters if I'm dead, can I?
There are just 1 or 2 more here that you've got to answer dead or alive.
Oh, not a moment's peace ever in my life. Not even a tranquil hour when I can say farewell to my books and pictures. I slave and slave and slave
No
and...
nonsense. You've got the whole evening to say farewell to your books and pictures. But before you go, you've got to tell me what to say to this awful old admiral in Rugby.
What's he doing in Rugby, anyhow? It's not a naval base.
He's retired.
If you ask me, that's all to the good. What does he want?
It seems that you met his son at a dance in Edinburgh when you were up there for Laughter in Heaven, and swore to him that if he left the Navy, you'd give him a job on the stage.
I never said such a thing.
He's left the Navy.
Well, give him some letters of introduction to people. Don't just sit there.
I don't know anything about him. What does he look like?
Oh, absolutely marvellous. If it's what I think it is, vast, strapping shoulders and tiny, tiny hips like a wasp.
Well, can he act?
How do I know? Don't be silly.
And what happens if it isn't the one you think it is?
Oh, he'll probably be very short and stumpy with no legs at all and projecting teeth. I'll give him the introduction anyhow.
Very well. Now, there's just one more that must be dealt with. It's from Sarah Lady Walshingham. She's written very civilly to know whether you want to give prizes at a charity costume ball she's giving on November the 12th. There'll be royalty present.
Why can't they give the prizes?
Because she's asked you, I suppose. You can't all give them.
Ooh, polite refusal.
What excuse can I give? I can't say you won't be here because you will. She's written so long in advance.
Wily old devil.
I really think you must say yes. She was awfully nice to us over that special matinee.
Oh, her? Oh, she's a darling. Of course I will. Say I'll be charming.
Have you finished with that tray? I want to be getting along.
Is everything packed?
Yeah, all except the last minute stuff, so we can pop that in the morning.
Is this poor Doris's swan song?
How do you mean?
Oh, nothing, Fred. It couldn't matter less.
She's coming to the station tomorrow morning to see us off. You don't mind, do you?
Oh, I can't wait.
I must be going home now.
Oh, don't leave me alone, Monica. I feel depressed.
You were screaming for peace just now. I'll be here first thing in the morning.
I wish you were coming with me. I shall be utterly lost without you.
Is Liz coming to the station?
No.
Why don't you go round and see her?
Oh, you know perfectly well she's still in a rage. I haven't seen her for a week.
Or have you tried?
Of course I have. I've telephoned her 3 times. Each time she spoke to me kindly and remotely, as if I were an idiot child. I'm not sure she didn't spell out some of the words to me.
Would you like me to have a go at her?
No. If she wants to behave like an outraged governess with chilblains, she can get on with it.
I see her point, you know. You really did go a little too far.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't start on me too.
I'll take these into the office.
Is there nothing more you want?
No, Fred.
Oh, I tell you, this place looked like a fair lash-up, doesn't it? How many do we have?
Oh, I don't know. About 60, I should think.
Well, between them, all they put away enough gin to float a Queen Mary.
You'd better call me at 8 in the morning. We have to leave the house at 10.
Rightio, Mr. Gary.
Good night, Fred. Enjoy yourself.
Same to you, Gary. Be good.
By the way, you'd better be careful as the phone rings. Roland Moyle has been calling up all the week.
I think I'd almost welcome him tonight. At least he'd be interesting psychologically.
So would Rasputin.
I feel dreadfully flat. I suppose one always does before going away.
It's your own fault that you're alone, you know. You refused all offers. You pleaded for a few hours' solitude and said you'd throw yourself out a window if you didn't get it, and that then we'd all be sorry.
I'm quite sure you wouldn't.
Oh, now. You're getting a big boy, you know. You'll be 42 next birthday. Just fancy.
41!
Good night, dear. I'll see you in the morning.
I do envy you, Monica. You're so unruffled and efficient. You go churning through life like some frightening old warship.
Thank you, dear. That sounds most attractive. Good night.
Good night. Hello? Hello? No, it isn't.
I'm going away now, Mr. Essendine. Have you everything you want?
Frankly, Miss Erickson, no. I've nothing that I want.
Oh, what a pity.
Have you? Have any of us got what we want?
Ha. Oh, Mr. Essendine, you are only acting. For a moment you made me quite upset.
You lead a strange life, Miss Erickson. Do you enjoy it?
Yes, indeed.
Tell me about it from A to Z.
Do you mind if I pinch a cigarette?
Anything you like, Miss Erickson.
Ha. I smoke so much and I am always running out. It is most silly.
Where are you going now, for instance?
I am going to my friend in Hammersmith. She is a German.
Is she a spy?
Yes, I think so, but she is very kind.
I understand from Fred that she is a medium as well.
Oh dear, yes. Sometimes she makes a trance and it is very surprising. She will lie on the ground for many hours making noises.
Oh, what kind of noises?
They are very different. Sometimes she will sing high up like a bird, and at other times she may make a little bark. Often she is very ill.
Oh, I'm not surprised at all.
Well, I must be pushing off now.
Thank you very much, Miss Erickson. It's been most interesting.
Not at all. Good night.
Good night. Daphne. Oh, Daphne, my dear, this really is very sweet of you to come and say goodbye.
I haven't come to say goodbye.
What do you mean?
I'm coming with you. I bought my ticket this afternoon.
You what?
I've run away. I left a note for my aunt. You see, I know something now. I've known it all the week, really. Ever since that awful morning when I fainted. I know that you need me as much as I need you. No, please don't say anything for a moment. I've thought it all over very carefully. I know I'm so very much younger than you and all that, but I can help you and look after you.
Daphne, dear, this really is too absurd. You must go home at once.
Oh, I knew you'd say that.
Please put your hat on again and don't be silly.
I know you better than you think I do. I know when you're acting and when you're not, and, well, you're acting now.
I'm not doing anything of the sort.
You were acting when you pretended to be cross when I came and recited, but when you said goodbye to me ever so sweetly that other morning, then you weren't acting. The mask was off then, wasn't it? wasn't it?
Now listen, my dear child.
I felt ashamed on Thursday at first. Ashamed of playing a trick on you by making Auntie rung up for an audition, but when I was here I was glad.
Oh, so you were glad, were you?
Yes, I was, and, well, I think that's why I fainted. You see, I suddenly realized the truth.
What truth?
How desperately lonely you really were, in spite of all those people around you, and in spite of your success. I knew how deep your longing must be to have somebody really to love you, to want to be with you, and, well, when I saw that dreadful prostitute come out of the spare room in that tawdry evening dress, well...
That was not a prostitute! It was the wife of one of my dearest friends!
No, Gary, you can't deceive me, I know.
Once and for all, Daphne, I wish to say to you loudly and clearly that I am not acting. I am speaking with utmost sincerity, of which I am capable, when I order you to put on your hat, get into a taxi, and go straight back to your aunt.
No, you needn't be frightened. I won't make any demands on you whatever. I don't want you to marry me or anything like that. I don't even believe that real love should be bound by church or law. I'm just coming with you, that's all. I've got quite a lot of money in the bank, and the manager said he'd wire for them to open an account for me in Josenberg. I'll just be there when you want me, when you're tired and lonely and want somebody to put their arms around you. I won't even see you on the boat if you don't want me to. I'm not a very good sailor, anyhow.
Oh, that's the front doorbell.
Who is it?
How do I know? You'd better go into the spare room.
No, Gary, please, no, not the spare room.
All right. The office then. Go quickly.
Get rid of them soon. Promise, whoever it is.
Here's your hat. Don't argue. Roland!
Forgive me, I must see you.
I'm very sorry you can't. I'm just going to bed.
I'm afraid I must insist. You see, it's a matter of life and death.
What the hell do you mean by forcing yourself into my house like this?
That's right! Shout! You're magnificent when you're angry!
I'll tell you something, young man. You're just raving bloody mad. That's all. That's the matter with you. You ought to be shut up. You ought to be in a straitjacket.
Oh, no, I'm not. You're the one who's mad.
Will you please leave this house immediately?
I'm afraid it's quite impossible. I burnt my boats.
Burnt your what?
Boats.
What are you talking about?
I told a wicked lie just now. When I said it was a matter of life and death, it wasn't really quite as bad. But it's very, very serious for me. I mean, perhaps for both of us.
If you're not out of this house by the time I've counted 10, I shall telephone the police.
I shan't let you. I'm tremendously strong, you know. I can lift the heaviest things imaginable without turning a hair.
Ha! Now look here, Mr. Mel.
You may call me Roland.
Well, Roland, I want to put this situation to you reasonably and quietly. This is my last night in England, and I've a great deal to do, and...
You said you were just now going to bed.
Be that as it may, Roland.
I know you think that I am raving mad. I really don't blame you a bit, but I assure you, I'm not at all. I merely have an exceptional brain in many, many ways. A brain, incidentally, that can be of inestimable service to. As I told you the other day, you signify a great deal to me. You are, in fact, a part of me.
Well, I'm sure I'm very flattered, Sir Roland.
I wonder if I could have a biscuit.
By all means. There are some in the dish. Help yourself.
Thank you. I promise you faithfully I'll go when I finish this biscuit. I've booked a room at the Grosvenor Hotel. After all, there's no valid reason if there's why I should be acting mad when you've been acting sane.
I am not acting.
You're always acting. And that's what's so fascinating. And you're so used to it that you don't even know it yourself. I'm always acting too. I've been acting mad with you because it amuses me to see how you'll put on your surprised face. I'm absolutely devoted to your face in every mood.
I suppose you wouldn't like to act getting the hell out of here, would you?
Oh, that
Listen, what exactly do you want, really?
To be with you. That's why I'm coming to Africa.
That's why you're what?
I bought a ticket the other day. In steerage, it isn't better than nothing. I've given up my law studies and left Uckfield for good. That's why I'm rather excitable tonight. You needn't be frightened. I shan't get in your way or make any demands on you.
Ah, you mean you don't expect me to marry you? Oh, God, there's somebody at the door. Do be a good boy and go away now, will you? You promised you would when you'd finished your biscuit.
Please, don't send me away. Please don't send me away. You're too great of a person to be unkind. Please let me stay with you. I can't protect you from things that you don't even know anything about.
Such as?
Yourself. All your dangerous vibrations. You're surrounded by pitfalls. Every step you take is fraught with peril, and your head is in the stars, and you can't see.
It's extremely kind of you to take such a keen interest in me, Roland. But if you really care so deeply, you will do what I ask and go quietly back to Uckfield.
I shall never go back to Uckfield. Lost train. It's gone now, anyway.
Well, go to the Grosvenor Hotel, then.
I'm not going to allow you to turn me away. You'll regret it for your whole life if you do. I have a profound conviction that if you do nothing will shake.
Come out of that room immediately, Mr. Moe! Roland! Roland! Come out at once! Oh, my God!
Hello, darling.
Joanna. What is the meaning of this, Joanna?
Don't you know?
Yes, I do. You're coming to Africa with me. You've bought your ticket this afternoon. You're not going to make any demands on me, and you're not a good sailor.
Oh, I'm a perfect sailor. What are you doing?
Ringing up Henry. Hello? Hello? I'm so terribly sorry. It's a wrong number.
It's no good doing that. He's not in.
It doesn't matter now anyway.
Darling, underneath this rather torn, strained manner of yours, deep down inside, aren't you just a little bit glad to see me?
Absolutely delighted. It will settle things once and for all.
That's what I thought.
When did you get back from Paris?
This afternoon. Did you get my telegram saying goodbye?
Yes. Monica read it out to me.
I meant her to.
I understood that you were going to stay in Paris for a month.
Oh, no, you didn't, darling. You knew perfectly well I wouldn't. I must say I tried for the first few days to put you out of my mind. I railed against you, said the most dreadful things that you weren't there to hear, and then I remembered.
What did you remember?
I remembered what you said to me the other night. You said, it doesn't matter what comes after this, what circumstances combine against us, what tears are shed. This is magic, the loveliest magic that I've ever known.
That is out of the second act of my play, Love is So Simple.
Yes, I recognized it. I saw the play several times, you know.
In that case, why did you believe it?
I didn't. But the fact of you saying it proved something to me. It proved that you are no more sincere emotionally than I am. That you no longer need or desire the pangs of love, but are perfectly willing to settle for the fun of love. It's an adult's point of view, and I salute it. I couldn't agree with you more.
That, to date, is the most immoral statement I have ever heard.
It's true, though, isn't it?
No, it is not!
And there's no need to be testy, my darling.
How dare you, Joanna! It's women like you who undermine the whole integrity of civilization!
Oh, and what's that out of?
It's not out of anything!
As I told you the other night, I've always wanted you. I've always known instinctively that we were right for each other. You're the first man I've ever met who's worthy of my steel. I can't guarantee that we'll be domestically happy together, but we'll have a good time.
Well, I'll be damned.
You were quite right when you said just now, with remarkable clairvoyance, that I was coming to Africa with you. I am. I got the bridal suite. It was all they had left. In addition to that, I've written a note to Henry telling him everything. He's dining with Morris at the Athenaeum. They can read it together. Who's that?
With any luck, it's the Lord Chamberlain.
Hello, Joanna.
Good evening, Liz, dear. How nice you look.
Thank you so much. I do my best.
I think it's only fair to tell you. I'm sailing with Gary tomorrow.
Oh, what fun. So am I.
What?
I decided this afternoon.
Well, it's certainly a big day for the Union Castle line.
I've sent Maggie down to Southampton tonight with my luggage.
Oh, so Maggie's coming too?
Of course. I couldn't move without Maggie.
If I may say so, Liz, I think that's rather silly of you.
I really don't see why. It'll be charming. We can all eat at the same table and do our lifeboat drill together.
Joanna has written a note to Henry and Morris explaining everything.
Good. Then they'll probably be coming too.
I should like to take this opportunity of saying that I wish I were dead.
Oh, nonsense, darling. You'll enjoy the voyage enormously. There won't be a dull moment.
You imagine you're being very clever, Liz, don't you?
I've learnt in a hard school.
Personally, I think you're making the greatest mistake of your life. It's always foolish not to have the courage to admit defeat.
You seem to imagine that I'm competing with you. I assure you I'm doing nothing of the sort. It's very important for all of us that this African tour of Gary's should be a success. Obviously, there is no way of preventing you coming if you want to, but you'd better realise before it's too late that from the social and publicity angle, you will be there as a friend of mine.
I give you just 3 guesses as to who that is.
I'll go, Gary.
Oh, the gathering of the clans. Perhaps I've been wrong about you after all. You haven't got the guts of a rabbit.
I'm very glad I haven't. I'm sure they'd be extremely inadequate.
False. False.
Is it true? That's all I want to know. Is it true?
Friend. False friend.
Come, Morris. You're not in the Athenaeum now.
Oh, it's no good trying to be flippant. This is a miserable, disgusting situation, and you know it.
A stab in the back. That is what it is. A low down stab in the back.
Not too low down, I hope.
Oh, shut up, Morris.
I've had a note from Joanna. I suppose you know that, don't you?
Yes, he does. I've just told him.
And is what she says in it true?
How do I know? I haven't read it.
Oh, don't prevaricate. She says that you've been lovers, and that you're going away together tomorrow. Is that true?
Perfectly true.
Answer me, Gary!
I'll tell you what's true and what's not true, all right, and you can stop bouncing up and down like a rubber ball and listen.
Be careful, Gary.
Careful? I've been a damn sight too careful with the lot of you for years.
Have you or have you not been Joanna's lover?
Yes, I have!
You miserable cad.
Joanna, you came to me the other night absolutely determined to get me, didn't you? And you were plausible and superficially alluring enough to succeed. Oh, you certainly roused my curiosity very cleverly, but it takes more than cleverness to touch my heart or my mind.
You haven't got a heart or a mind. You haven't got one decent instinct in you. You're morally unstable and false through and through.
Oh, for the love of God, stop being theatrical!
Oh, dear.
You should never have married Joanna in the first place, Henry. I always told you it was a grave mistake.
You have the damned impertinence to stand there after seducing my wife and tell me...
Look here, Henry. It's high time we got down to brass tacks. I didn't seduce your wife, and well, you know it. You're taking up a highly immoral and mighty attitude over the whole thing, but I'm perfectly convinced that if you face the facts honestly for a minute, you'll discover that you don't really mind in the least. Morris is the one who minds. For the moment.
Morris? What do you mean?
Oh, Gary, that really was disgraceful of you.
Disgraceful, my foot! I'm sick to death of everybody lying and intriguing and acting all over the place.
All right, you win, Gary. I wouldn't have believed anyone in the world could sink so low.
Fiddlesticks!
What did you mean about Morris? Answer me!
I mean that Morris and Joanna have been carrying on an abortive little ding-dong under your silly nose for months.
I'll never speak to you again until the day that I die.
Well, we can have a nice little chat then, can't we?
Morris! Joanna, is this true?
Of course it's true. It hasn't lasted quite so long as your rather dreary affair with Elvira Radcliffe. That's been hiccuping along for nearly
I told you about that in the deepest confidence! How could you be so vile as to betray it?
I'm sick to death of being stuffed with everybody's confidences. I'm bulging with them. You, all of you, come to me over and over again and pour your damn tears and emotions and sentiment all over me until I'm wet through. You're all just as badly behaved as I am, really, in many ways a great deal worse. You, Morris, happen to like taking your paltry attachment seriously. You like suffering and plunging into orgies of jealousy and torturing yourself and everyone else. That's your way of enjoying yourself. Henry's technique is a little different. He plumps for the domestic blend, and that's why he got tired of Joanna so quickly. Anyhow, he's beautifully suited with poor Elvira. She's been knee-deep in past ever since she left the Rhodian. Joanna's different again. She devotes a great deal of time to sex, but not for any of the intrinsic pleasures of it, merely as a means to an end. She's a collector. I personally am not one of these things. To me, the whole business is vastly overrated. I enjoy it for what it's worth and fully intend to go on doing it so for as long as anybody's interested. And when the time comes and they're not, I shall be perfectly content to settle down with an apple and a good book.
Well, I'll be damned.
Of all the brazen, arrogant sophistry I've ever listened to, that takes the prize for all time.
You have the nerve to work yourself up into a state of moral indignation about us when we all know.
I have not worked myself up into anything at all. I'm merely defending my right to speak the truth for once.
Truth? You wouldn't recognize the truth if you saw it. You spend your whole life attitudinizing and posturing and showing off.
And I should like to know where we would all be if I didn't. I'm an artist, aren't I? Surely I may be allowed a little license?
As far as I'm concerned, it's expired.
Oh, for heaven's sake, stop shouting, all of you. You'll have the roof off.
I'm sick of this idiotic performance. I'm going.
And kindly don't start that old threadbare argument about none of us being able to live and breathe if it wasn't for your glorious talent.
How dare you allude to my talent in that nasty, sarcastic tone, you ungrateful little serpent!
Anyhow, if it hadn't been for our restraining influence, you'd be in the provinces by now.
And what's the matter with the provinces, may I ask? They've often proved to be a great deal more intelligent than London.
Oh, be careful, someone might hear.
I suppose you'll be saying next that it's your restraining influence that has allowed me to hold my position as an idol of the public for 20 years.
You're not the idol of the public. They'll come and see you in the right play and the right part, and you've got to be good at that. Look at what happened to you in Pity the Blind.
I was magnificent in Pity the Blind.
Why, yes, for, 10 days?
If it hadn't been for us, you'd have done Peer Gynt.
If I so much as hear Peer Gynt mentioned in this house again, I swear before heaven that I shall produce it in Drury Lane myself.
Not on my money, you won't.
Your money indeed. Do you think I'm dependent on your miserable money to put on plays? Why, there are thousands of shrewd old gentlemen in the city who would be only too delighted to back me in anything I choose to do.
I think it rather depends on whether they're married or not.
Oh, so we're back to that again, are we?
No, we're not back to anything. This has been a most disgusting, degrading scene, and if it wasn't for the fact that Morris and I signed the contract for the Forum Theatre this morning, we should both of us wash our hands of you forever!
You what?
Oh, now, Gary, for heaven's sake.
I'm going. Do you hear me, all of you? I'm going. For good.
Take my car, it's downstairs.
It has been a great evening for speaking the truth, hasn't it? And I should like to add just one little contribution for the entertainment before I leave. I consider you, Mr. Gary Essendine, to not only be an overbearing, affected egomaniac, but the most unmitigated cad that has ever been in my misfortune to meet, and I must devoutly hope that I shall never set eyes on you again as long as I live.
Oh. Do you mean to tell me that you signed a contract for that theatre when I particularly told you that no power on God's earth would induce me to play it?
Now, look here, Gary.
I will not look here. It's nothing more nor less than the most outrageous betrayal of faith, and I'm deeply, deeply angry.
As I told you the other day, they are doing up the whole theatre, reseating the orchestra floor, which will put over 100 onto the capacity. In addition to that, they're mad to have you there, and they've even consented to put a shower bath into your dressing room.
I don't care whether they put a swimming bath in my dressing room and a squash cot and a Steinaway grand. I will not play a light French comedy to an auditorium that looks like a Gothic edition of Wembley Stadium.
Oh, it won't look like that, honestly, darling, when they've redecorated it. I've seen the designs. They're really awfully good.
Oh. So you're against me too, are you? The whole world's against me.
Really, Gary, I promise you that...
Go away. Go away, all of you. I can't bear anymore. I've got to face that dreadful sea voyage tomorrow, and then those months of agonizing drudgery all across the length and breadth of Africa. Go away from me, please go.
Go on, both of you. I'll talk to him.
That performance wouldn't deceive a kitten. He's losing his grip. Come on, Henry.
It's a pity they're pulling down the Lyceum.
Indeed.
I think I should like a sip of something to drink. I really do feel quite tired.
Whiskey or brandy?
Oh, brandy, I think. It's more stimulating.
All right.
You're not really coming to Africa with me, are you, Liz?
Certainly I am. And not only to Africa. I'm coming back to you for good.
I don't want you to come back to me. I'm perfectly happy as I am.
Well, that can't be helped. You behave abominably anyhow, but you won't be able to be quite so bad with me there.
Liz, I implore you, do not come back to me. Have you no sympathy? No heart?
I'm thinking of the good of the firm. That reminds me, I must leave a note for Monica in the office. I want her to ring up the bank for me first thing in the morning.
The office? Oh, my God.
Oh, what's the matter?
Roland Moore is hiding in the office, and Daphne Stillington is hiding in the spare room.
Oh, good grief.
You've got a sofa, haven't you, dear? In your flat?
Oh, of course. What are you talking about?
You're not coming back to me, my dear. I'm coming back to you.